You've been building months, maybe years. You have an idea, a real one, the kind that keeps you up at night because you can see exactly how it changes things. And then one day, someone else shows up with it. Same market, same problem, almost the same solution. Your stomach drops because somewhere along the way, a pitch, a panel, a LinkedIn post, maybe a casual coffee somewhere, you never know. But the idea got out and became public. And now you're standing there thinking, did I just kill my own company? That's exactly the question this episode is about. Not hypothetically, not academically, because this scenario, this exact feeling walks through my door on a regular basis. Founders, executives, people who built something real and are now terrified that public means finished. My name is Maria Boicova-Wynants. I work at the intersection of IP, innovation, business strategy, and psychology. And this podcast, What Would You Do, exists because of one question I get asked constantly. Maria, what would you do? And today I'm going to answer it. And I'll warn you up front, the answer is not what most people expect. Here is what happens when people realize their idea is out in the world. First is panic. And that's the kind of where you can't really think straight. You're scanning LinkedIn for the competitor. You're calculating how far ahead they might be. Then there is the blame spiral. Who talked? Was it you? Was it someone on the team? Should you have filed something earlier? Should you have said less? And then, and this is where it really gets wrong, people start doing things. They rush to a lawyer and file whatever can be filed just to feel that they're doing something. They tighten the pitch. Same story, more confidence, hoping energy covers the gap. They pivot slightly, trying to differentiate, often just diluting the one thing that made them interesting in the first place. Or they freeze completely and quietly wait for someone else to make the next move. Every single one of those reactions is understandable. None of them addresses the real problem. Because the real problem is not disclosure. It never was. The idea was never the asset. I know that's uncomfortable to hear, especially when the idea is the thing you've been protecting, defending, and explaining for months. But ideas in isolation are worth almost nothing. They're worth nothing legally, they're worth very little strategically. What matters is what surrounds the idea, the execution, the brand, the relationships, the user experience, the operational reality of actually building the thing. That's what's defensible. And that's what creates leverage. But when the panic hits, none of it is visible. All people see is the idea, public, exposed, apparently up for grabs. And so they fight for the wrong thing. What actually gets lost when an idea goes public is not novelty in some abstract patent law sense. What gets lost is narrative control. Your ability to walk into a room, a boardroom, an investor meeting, a partnership conversation, and say with complete conviction, this is ours. And here's why, and here is what you can't replicate, and here's why walking away from us is a mistake. When the idea leaks and you haven't built that story, you lose the plot, literally. Investors hesitate. Competitors gain confidence they didn't earn. Partners become much less careful. The market stops seeing a company and starts seeing a category. And in a category, you're just an option, not the option. That is what kills value, not the disclosure per se, the collapse of defensible positioning. So, what would I actually do? Let me be specific here. First of all, I would stop treating the idea as the asset. Full stop. Whatever emotional investment exists in idea as an idea, I'd set it aside. It's a distraction. The question is not, did someone take our idea? The question is, what do we actually have that is truly valuable? I'd map it systematically. The brand, is it protected? Is it distinctive? Does it mean something? The workflow, is there a proprietary process here? Even if it's not patentable, that doesn't matter. The product design, the user experience, the interaction model, the feel, the contracts. Are customers tied in? Are suppliers locked? Are partners aligned? The team knowledge. What do we know that took years to figure out? Well, that mapping exercise alone usually reveals two things. First, that there's more defensibility than people thought. And second, that it's in different places than they assumed. Now, next, I would focus on Pareto, so the 80-20 moves. Not comprehensive protection, not theoretical coverage of every possible angle. No, the specific actions that rebuild leverage and do that fast. Secure the name properly across relevant jurisdictions. Tighten ownership contracts inside the team. Fix the gaps in IP assignment clauses that are almost certainly sitting in those employment agreements. Clarify what is owned, by whom, and on what terms. And then look hard at what can still be protected versus what should be treated as execution advantage. Know-how, process depth, speed, relationships. Because you see, some things you don't really protect them with filings. You protect them by other means, be it contracts or policies or specific actions, or sometimes just by being a company that's genuinely better at the thing. Third, and this is the one that separates the companies that recover from the ones that don't, I would force one hard question. If someone shows up tomorrow with the same solution, the same pitch, the same market opportunity, why would the market choose us? Not we were first. That's not an answer. Markets rarely reward being first. Not our team is better. That's not verifiable. The answer has to be structural. Something in how the product works, something in the relationship with the customer, something in the distribution maybe, or something that's genuinely hard to replicate in short term. If you can answer that question clearly and specifically, you are not finished. You're actually maybe even in a better position than you were before the whole panic started, because now you know what you're actually defending. If you can't answer that, you don't have an IP problem. You have a strategic clarity problem. And no IP filing in the world fixes that. Now, what I want you to take out of it, public does not mean finished. I want that to land, because I've watched too many good companies talk themselves into paralysis over a disclosure that was in the end quite survivable. What is not survivable is the response to it. The panic filing that signals weakness, the strategy pivot that kills differentiation, the freeze that lets a well-capitalized competitor consolidate the market while you are still processing what's happened. The work, the actual work, is to rebuild leverage calmly, efficiently, without drama. That means stopping the question, did we disclose too much? And starting the question, what can still be made hard to replace, hard to copy, and easy to believe? That question is harder. It's less comfortable. And there's no one answer. But essentially, that's the only question that leads somewhere worth going. This is exactly the kind of decision moment I work on with founders, executives, and legal teams who are navigating real situations under real pressure. That's not about slides, it's not about frameworks, it's the actual decisions. If you are dealing with something like this right now, you know how different that is from reading about it. And if you're not dealing with it today, you could very well one day be. So stay close. Thank you for listening to What Would You Do? In the next episode, I will look at what would you do if your team disagrees on IP strategy? Because the hardest decisions are rarely just legal. They're about people, incentives, identity, psychology. Until next time, think clearly, decide better.